it's fun. The main thing is I get a lot of enjoyment out of this, and I really feel good about things that express what I'm thinking of.
They're narratives. They're narratives about my life. Included in almost every painting is references to a very important event or certain people that are influencing my life at the time I'm painting it. So they're narratives. They're very personal.
Actually, these pieces, for the majority, are landscape influenced and really dealing with materiality in terms of using the acrylic gels for texture and acrylic gloss mediums. Landscape in a dual sense, this piece and this and the one that's out of the frame, I consider almost like a planetary surface, like looking down with the craters and the sort of weathering that you might get from bombardment from space, for example. So yeah, these pieces are sort of one body of work that in itself has various streams within it, some more colorful, the majority of it in black and white. This is all acrylic basically. There was one piece that incorporated kosher salt. And actually, no, I take that back. And a couple of pieces that incorporate powdered graphite, which I mix with a clear acrylic medium. And again, it gives a texture that I can control through the various proportions of graphite or powdered charcoal to the acrylic medium. And it gives it's a real spontaneous way of working because I mix it on the surface and then use palette knife to spread it and shape it. No, just thanks for showing me here at Glen Echo.
Well, I grew up in this area and spent a lot of time as a child canoeing, fishing, swimming, even swimming in the Potomac River. And I just always wondered, where did this river begin? Where did it end, and what lay in between? And that sort of got me started on a journey of photographic discovery. I worked on this, well, I started taking photographs many years ago, but I got really focused on the project. When I got really focused on the project, it was probably about 3 years in my spare time. Well, I wanted to communicate just how complex this river and beautiful this river was. I think it's something in this Washington area, it's more of an annoyance as we get stuck on bridges that, as we're trying to get across the river, going to and from work. And I saw something a lot more beautiful, a lot more dynamic, and I really wanted to say something about that and show people just how beautiful and how much character this river has. Our rivers, not just the Potomac, all our rivers are national treasures, and they really deserve our appreciation and our protection. Thank you.
My work is about balance, the balance between the medium itself and the imagery, the destruction and rebirth of the subject matter, how things are often contradictory, yet they tend to meld well together. They often complement each other. So the structure of the forms versus the chaos that they're kind of melded into is really what's interesting to me about the work itself. In terms of getting traditional mediums such as oil paint to kind of meld with more non-traditional mediums like spray paint. You know, that's what I'm interested in. How do I get all these different mediums, which are always competing for attention, to really kind of be one with each other and complement each other and be a functional piece of artwork. As long as it has movement and as long as it has balance, I'm usually pretty happy with the piece itself. I make art I want to see.
Paintings, I'm mainly celebrating the figure, the drawing, and highlighting the drawing. So I pretty much leave the image, the figure, by itself, or don't go into it with the pigment, but it's embedded in layers of the clear and caustic medium. And I may do more drawing using an inscribing tool around the figure, emphasizing lines, and then I do more mixed media, collage elements in the background. So the background may even be seen as an abstract painting. And I use postcards, handmade papers, sometimes fabric. You can look close and find a lot of different things, even some of the birch. And we're doing a series of books that my husband has written, short stories, poems, and songs, my husband David Hubbard, about these paintings. The first is Poems from Within, and that's going to be about 20 poems and the corresponding paintings that he's written about. So that should be coming up a little later this year. There's a song about this one over here, You're Welcome, which I've even included the title Milkmaid because that is part of the song that he's written. I'm also an instructor at Glen Echo Park and Yellowburn Studios. I teach children's art classes, and parent and child. I have a class coming up in April. And in May, I have an encaustic and mixed media workshop, also June, at the Yellowburn Studios.
My guitars are an extension of my functional sculpture that I've been doing. All of my work is wood carving, but I did a lot of lamps, chairs, and ending with guitars, of which I've always had a lifetime love of, but no ability to play. I found that out in guitar lessons in high school. But I went ahead and used the guitars as my stepping stone to express much cultural love that I have for science fiction topics, everything rock and roll. And this is Wheelie in yellow heart, painted with enamels. I've done lots of enamel painting on many pieces, but more and more so just using the wood grain itself in many of the pieces. So that's it.
To know. So, hi, my name is Noah, and my sculpture is really about the things that I love in general. And I love music, and New Orleans was a big inspiration for this piece, particularly. This is Nathan Williams of Nathan and the Zydeco Cha-Chas. I try to go down to New Orleans for Jazz Fest whenever I can, and so that's really an inspiration for this piece. But a lot of my work is really about motion and music, and inspired by all locations all over the world. I mean, I've been to India about 5 times, and a lot of my work is inspired by the people and the culture there. I think a lot of the work that comes through me feels very African. It always feels very inspired by different cultures and different people in the world. Welding I love because it's a material that's really primal, and it's all about fire and metal, and it's immediate. I got my start doing ceramic, and things would explode and blow up and break, so I feel that metal is just a solid material that's good to work in. I like to show the age in the metal, so like part of my material, the way I work is I use a patina. So I'll put a copper coating on the metal. This is all made from sheet metal, steel, and then I'll spray the chemical patina on there, and it will give it a really good, funky rust. Very much like the way ceramic gets a glaze, and you really don't know what's going to come out of it. So a lot of the way I work is very free and inspirational, and it just comes through me. I don't make a preliminary drawing. I'm just playing with the metal, and whatever comes through, comes through. So I really didn't have an idea how Nathan was going to come out. I had a general idea. I wanted to make a guy playing the accordion, but you know, he's his own life that kind of just appeared, and it was really great to meet him. You know, he's not somebody I knew exactly, and you know, I'm still getting to know him. So
I noticed you kept bringing up ceramics.
yeah.
Can you tell me a little something about that and how that ties into this?
Well, the way I work actually is kind of the way you grab little bits of clay. I think, like the way I used to work in clay, I grab little bits and stick it together, and the form and the way it's molded, and the fluidity, I think, of working in clay is very much the way I bring that quality to the metal. The way I, you know, cut up little bits and grab little bits here and there. And like I said, like I think the glaze, you know, the glaze effect that you get from patina is very much like with ceramic. Yeah.
Ceramics.
Yeah, I mean, when I was 8 years old, it was really the first time I took a ceramic class, and I was instantly like taken with that material and sculpture. And I guess what I love about sculpture is how physical it is, and that it really exists in this plane. I never was really into painting. It was always kind of got into more, you know, imagination and fantasy, and I like to bring, I like to be a real creator and like make people, and it was always like bringing characters to life, you know, with the way I work, and it was always all my work. If you look at it, it's all like people kind of frozen in motion, and it's always about implying motion and life. I mean, I try to like give each piece like it's like its own soul, you know. Like I like to invest my own self in everything I do. So everything I make, I feel, is very much has its own personality and life to it. And you kind of just walk away and you know, do its own thing, live its own existence, independent of me. They're like the kids. They're like my children, I guess. You know. My feeling was to bring to get the larger context, the spiritual connection. And so that's really what I want to do with my art, is to bring that spiritual experience together with the art, with the visual, with the music, to just get all the senses involved. And I feel like that's what I want to do with my work now. My current work I'm working on right now is I'm making animals. They're all the gods. Every god has an animal. It's called the Vahana. It's an animal that the god rides. So there's the great god Ganesha, who's the lord of obstacles. He's the remover of obstacles. He puts obstacles in your way. Sometimes you need an obstacle in your way, because you don't know what's best for you, and Ganesha will put an obstacle in your way or remove an obstacle. Ganesha is this giant elephant god, and he's got a human body, but he's got an elephant face, and he rides around on a rat. So I'm making his rat right now, and I'm making Shiva is the great god Shiva, the destroyer god, and he rides a bull, and so I'm making the bull right now. And so, yes, the animal, they ride the animal, but also the animal has its own divinity, and everything that exists is a spark of divine, and everything that exists is consciousness. And so even though this looks like a solid metal object, really it's just these vibrating particles, and everything is just mostly space, but this is actually in motion right now. So I think that really brings it full circle for me. Like, what my sculpture is showing the motion, even though it looks like a solid thing, but everything is really in motion. Nothing is static, nothing is solid. So my work is always in motion and always implying movement or moving actually. So.